This is my essay from I Just Want to Be Alone, and it's called True Love Story. Go ahead, you two, my mother urged. Try it out. I stood with my mother and Mike in the middle of a mattress store. There was so much I still didn't know about him, yet there we were bed shopping. The three of us hovered over a cheaper model, and my mother encouraged us to test it, this mass of springs and fabric that touted spinal health and promised not to go up in flames, at least not quickly, should a fire break out. Shopping with my mother and boyfriend for a mattress was not a situation I'd ever anticipated. Mike and I looked at the pristine white rectangle with its faint paisley imprint and felt a collective shame for all that would eventually take place on this bed. Despite my mother's encouragement, the feeling remained, that awkward, giddy embarrassment of blushes that accompany such a purchase in the presence of a parent. We had every intention of living in sin. I was 21. Mike was 20, and my mother had met him 12 hours earlier. I was thankful for her blessing, evidenced by her support of mattress testing, despite the fact that she hardly knew him. He was young and strong and good-looking, but almost too much so. The kind of good-looking that makes you anticipate a person will be an asshole. He had the muscled arms and perfect bone structure of a handsome but jerky captain of the football team from an after-school special, and I secretly harbored the fear that he hid a gross defect of character. What if he tortured small animals, or had affairs with men in gas stations, or was the type of guy who peed all over the toilet seat? I was already in love with him, so there was no turning back, but I really hoped he wouldn't pee all over the toilet seat. I'd met him 3 months earlier on a 10-day vacation in Mexico, where we were free from the responsibilities of work and school and U.S. laws on public drunkenness. Meeting someone on vacation tends to speed up the dating process. Instead of meeting once a week for dinner or a movie, you eat all your meals together and wake up together, looking at each other with mirrored expressions of confusion and tentative utterances of, "Did we?" Mike was vacationing with his family, and on more than one morning of our 10 days in Mexico, I'd had to exit his room and pass through the condo kitchen with my eyes on the floor, under the scrutiny of his mother as she made coffee. 16 years later, she still relishes telling stories of my walks of shame. When the vacation ended, we said goodbye in the airport. Without warning, my emotions rudely took control of my body and reduced me to a puddle of snot and tears, which was certainly not what I wanted as Mike's last image of me. His parents were there that day, and as Mike boarded his plane, I cried on his mother's shoulder, while his father, completely befuddled as to how to handle such a situation, feigned sudden enthrallment with a Mexican soap opera on a nearby monitor. We spent 3 months pining and hundreds of dollars on phone bills before I decided to pack up my electric blue Volkswagen Rabbit and travel from Maryland to California to be with him. He was in his first year of college. I was in my last. We agreed that if one of us was going to move, it would be me. "How long were you two in Mexico together?" my mother asked when I told her I was moving. 10 days. "And you want to drive across the country and move in with him?" "Yes," I confirmed. I knew that my family might think my decision indicated insanity, drugs, or pregnancy. I held my breath for my mother's reaction. "Okay," she said. "Want me to drive with you?" 2 weeks later, I pulled up to her house and loaded her tiny suitcase, all that I would permit her, into my packed Volkswagen. She held a newspaper in hand as she opened the passenger side door. "What's that?" I questioned, motioning to the newspaper. "What's what?" "In your hand," I demanded. "It's a newspaper." "Yeah, you can't bring that." "What are you talking about?" She looked confused. Sorry, there's just no room. No room for my newspaper? You'll have to leave that here. I'll just keep it on my lap, she protested. You can't, I explained. I already have your lap items designated. Lucky for me, my mother was a sport, and after 3,047 miles and days spent surviving on gas station food, we arrived in a tiny coastal California town. Should we pick up a pizza? I asked. Don't you want to go straight there to see him? My mother questioned. You're not getting cold feet, are you? No, I answered. He's at a crew competition in some other town. He won't be back until tomorrow. In that case, she said, I'd rather find a liquor store. Jackpot. I pulled into a strip mall that offered both Little Caesars and liquor. After the week of Pringles and Diet Coke, it felt like fine dining. I'll buy these, my mother said in the liquor store, holding up one each of the largest available bottles of gin and vodka. Consider it a housewarming present. Aw, thanks, Mom. We pulled into the apartment complex long after dark, but well before midnight. Balancing pizza and booze, we left the car packed with my possessions and went searching in the dark for the apartment number Mike had given me. I felt a bit like a prowler, but carrying booze made it seem like I was a prowler bearing gifts, which wasn't quite so creepy. Standing outside the apartment door in California, I knocked, because that's what doors ask of me. I followed this with a kick at the doormat where he'd agreed to hide a key. The doormat slid to the side easily, revealing no key underneath. For a brief but heavy moment, I wondered if I was the victim of the most elaborate and cruel prank ever conceived. Get a girl to fall for you, so much so that she quits her job, gives up her apartment, leaves the state during her last semester of college, and drags her mother across the country to meet Mr. Wonderful, who really lives somewhere else entirely, and engages in this sadism because he gets off on it. Fucker. Then the door opened. Mike stood before us, eyes narrowed with sleep, and standing in only his boxer shorts. I wondered what my mother would think. Would she purse her lips in disapproval? What if part of his package was hanging out and he didn't know it? Please let his penis be in place, I thought. I checked, and all seemed tidily confined, no errant testicle peeking out from bunched up boxers. I looked to my mother for her reaction. She beamed. Hi, said Mike, looking stunned but pleased. I thought you wouldn't be here until tomorrow. And I thought you were on a crew trip. Come in, he said, and stepped back. We entered the apartment, suddenly full of awkward tension. My mother and I headed straight for the kitchen to set down the pizza and booze. Mom, I said, this is Mike. Mike, this is my mother, Edie. Hi, Edie, he smiled. Hi, Mike, she continued to beam. Maybe you should go put some clothes on, I suggested, embarrassed that the full hotness of the man I was moving in with was right there on display for his first meeting with my mom. He's fine, she chided. Leave him alone. Oh, sorry, I'll be right back, said Mike, ducking out of the kitchen to search for clothes. As soon as he was out of earshot, my mom turned into a teenager. Oh my God, he's so cute. Did you see the way he looked at you? Then, in a lower voice, what am I doing here? This should be your moment. I feel like an intruder. We unpacked the Volkswagen of my random assortment of possessions that seemed worthless but managed to occupy the entire vehicle. Clothes, silverware, toiletries, a framed poster of Billie Holiday, a hammer, a lamp. I'd had my books shipped ahead of time. Just as his athletic activities seemed alien to me, for I'd never before known someone who rode on a crew team, so did my attachment to books to him. We had a drink, pizza, and attempted to relax. And then it was time to go to bed, which was ironically anything but relaxing. We had no beds. Mike's furniture consisted of a lone bookshelf. He'd moved into the apartment from a dorm room just in time for my arrival. The bookshelf, combined with my lamp, hammer, poster, and spoons, did little to flesh out the place. He had 2 thin camping pads. We gave the thicker of the 2 to my mother and took the remaining camping pad and placed it on the carpet in the middle of the bare bedroom. We slept in a prolonged hug while clothed, the sleep of 2 people who love but hardly know each other, in a room just a wall away from my mother. The next morning, the 3 of us set out on a shopping trip. We bought pots and pans at Goodwill, and I couldn't help but wonder about the undoubtedly dead people whose cookware I was inheriting for $1.35 apiece. Hopefully none of them died of Teflon poisoning. At Target, we picked out bedding and random objects like a trash can for the bathroom. I eyed a scale and debated buying it. A woman walked by and said, "Honey, don't do that to yourself." We went to a mattress store because I didn't think I could take another night pretending that the camping pad was comfortable, and because we were now the proud new owners of bedding, but no bed to put it on. My mom would be forced to tough it out on the camping pad for 2 more nights before flying back to the East Coast. Buying a mattress with your brand new, I hardly know you and really hope this works out, wait, what the fuck are we doing, significant other, is awkward. Throwing my mother into the mix did nothing to lessen the discomfort of the situation. "Go ahead, you 2, she said, motioning to the low-end queen. "Try it out." Mike and I looked at each other and then tentatively laid down on the mattress, a prudish foot of space between us, both of us stock straight with arms tucked in at our sides. The fluorescent lights of the mattress store seemed to highlight the reality of our moving in together. My mother stood off to the side, smiling in an ill-fated attempt to put us at ease. She turned away from us, pretending to be interested in a nearby pillow top, which gave me the sudden urge to run and hug her. Instead, I lay still, feeling the energy of lying next to a man on a mattress we would buy together. While staring at the ceiling and without a word, our hands met in the space between us. "This could work," he said. I wasn't sure if he meant the mattress or us. Either way, I agreed. "Let's try it out." "Wait," he whispered, "here?" So that's an essay from I Just Want to Be Alone. And that is a true story. He's right there.